Hello there everybody and welcome back for another Finnish Crafting Corner video, and today I mentioned in the last video that we're gonna take a look at how to make very cheap terrain and what are the tools that you're gonna need in it. But first, to get your interest, it's like what are we doing? Like with these simple tools and techniques, you can create something like this. So yeah, we're not making this today, or I believe a video exists where I actually do make it, but I'm gonna explain you the process how you can make these with little spending at all. But so you know, to get your terrain career started. So you got your miniatures, and now you want to move on to making some cheap terrain. You know, your first terrain. What you saw there is not a big task. It's actually very easy to do, and really you gotta do some invests to get the this thing started. So, but to do the minimalistic thing, to get what you just saw, the complex or whatever, that, you know, I'm gonna further explain on that. The few things that you need to invest this on is a hot glue gun. Simple, self-explanatory. You gotta glue stuff together. You don't necessarily need to use this stuff, but I have found it out. Well, I have one since I did cosplay armors, and I still planning on doing some. So, but this thing is really handy. It makes your work a lot quicker than using, I don't know, some other kind of glue. These are very cheap. Just one thing that I would keep in mind is that when you're buying a hot glue gun, make sure to check on the diameter, whatever, what sizes these glue things are, and make sure that they actually sell the hot glue for the gun you're buying, because a lot of stores around here like to do a thing where it's like, here's this tiny, very cheap hot glue gun, and it only accepts these very specific diameters of hot glue, and they don't actually sell the packages of that particular glue. So keep that in mind when you're buying this, that you actually have one, so you don't need to buy a new one every time. I have one of those. Because of that, I made that mistake first time. So make sure you get a one that you can actually buy the glue on. Then you are going to be needing a cutting board, because you're going to be cutting some cardboard and all the other stuff, and this is going to be something that you're going to need on your hobby thing in general. So this is going to help you out, like an actual proper cutting board. As you can see, I have destroyed mine. Like, I usually use this side for more precise stuff, you know, and this one for the general thing. So you need to get one of these for sure. Just imagine this is your table surface. Your missus is not gonna like that. May have destroyed a table in the past. I also used before I got this one, I used like you know, when your computer desks come, if it's made out of wood, it comes with the back. It has the cabinet that has the back wall. I used the back wall as a cutting board, and that destroyed the both. So I ended up destroying both the wall and the knives that I used, or the blades. So get a cutting board, extends the life. It's a must-have tool. And last but not least, some sort of cutter, hobby knife. Well, I recommend getting something like this for the terrain, because you want to keep your hobby knife sharp for the other small things that you might like on. And same as with the glue gun, when you're getting one of these, make sure you get a one that actually has, you know, more blades to go on, because these things, there's a lot of cheap ones that are one-time use only, or rather they would have potentially extra blades for them, but the store that you bought it from doesn't sell them. Instead, they sell you these instead of just blades alone. So make that initial check to future-proof yourself, to have you know, both proper extra blades and the extra glue. But without further ado, I have been rambling enough about the tools. So these are the tools that you need to start, and these take you really, really far. in how to make it. All you need, aside from that, is just the materials, and boom, you're good to go. So without further ado, let's get cracking. As a bonus, I'm gonna be showing you how I make some things, and I came up with a pretty cool idea for a wall. I was gonna make an example of I'm gonna make an example of having a corner that also has a second roof, similar to that I made on my zero budget video. So we're gonna make that proper out of cardboard, and I just came up with an idea how I'm gonna texture one of the walls with these tools alone. But without further ado, enough rambling, let's get to that. Yeah, first things first, we're gonna cut out the walls. So I figured we probably could make them about that high. So, by the way, I got this from I got it used for less than €1. So just a ruler and Sharpie. You can use any pen for this. I just happen to have a Sharpie. So let's say that's gonna be height of our wall, and then I'm just gonna cut it out from this. And I'm gonna be using this bottom side because, well, you can see this side of it gets thinner on this side, and it's not so great. Although we are not gonna cut it all the way through, we're gonna actually make, because I'm thinking we're gonna need the base too. Whatever, we'll see what this is gonna look like. So just give me a cut like that. And I reckon, since we're gonna have 2 walls for this one, I'm gonna make the split from there, like so. And then if I wanted to do it, I don't have any template for this, I'm just eyeballing it. Let's go with roughly the same, like so. And as it turns out, I didn't have enough of this stuff to make a floor for this, but let's say this building doesn't need any. It's strong enough to be holding on its own. So usually the way I make the ruined buildings is I have the idea like this. I might draw some windows or doors that I'm gonna be cutting out. So let's say this one has a door like that, and this other one is going to be, let's say it has a window on it, and I'm gonna make this one slightly different, just the estimation like that. Maybe I'm gonna make this window smaller. Anyway, so first thing what I like to do is cut out the details like so, and make sure you keep all this stuff you cut out. Make sure you keep all these pieces because we're gonna do something with them later. These are gonna be very simple and quick ones, so they're not gonna have that much detail on them. And then we're gonna cut out this window. Like so, and I'm not gonna make it as tall either. So just eyeballing this stuff like that. Okay, so we have the basic structure of a building like that, but you know, it looks too clean for 40k. So for this one, what we are gonna do, maybe it could be that way, maybe it's that way, doesn't matter. Let's say, you know, this doesn't look ruined enough for something like 40k. So just take the knife, slap it, and go ham with it like so. And there you have it. Now you have a ruined corner, this one. Yeah, let's make it more interesting like that. And then okay, that looks too clean of a cut, so just gonna ruin it up a bit. There we go. That looks more interesting now. And you're starting to get a little 40k vibes out of it. Now for this one, I'm gonna make it ruined, but I'm not using the same method. Because I kind of came up with an idea that might look good. A simple way to texture this, which is, I'll just take the ruler. I want to make this look like it's a brick wall. So I take the knife and the ruler, and I'm just gonna break the surface. I mean, this is something I just came up with on the spot. I'm just doing these light cuts so you can see it's creating like a texture. Now, actually, for the window, I'm gonna do the same. But okay, that might actually not work. Well, this is part of the process, so. Okay, so I ended up going with. I started with the. I'm not sure. It actually shows pretty well on the camera. In real life, you can't see the texture as well, but especially when you put a paint on it, this actually shows up pretty well. And I guess I'll do that for demonstration purposes later. I started with these smaller tires, but I got lazy, and then I ended up just making these larger ones here. And you know, since we want to make this look destroyed, I guess what we could do is just follow the lines where the bricks are. So let's say there's a missing brick there. Like that. Okay, maybe. Yeah. So that's gonna be our destroyed building, and the only things keeping it together is gonna be the top side. But first, we're gonna glue these together. So just gonna give it a nice bead of glue there, like so. And as it turns out, I put it to the wrong side, so yeah. We can swap that, like so. It's hot glue, luckily. Doesn't matter much. So let's put a new bead in there. And just keep it there. You can blow on it. To get it together faster. Or you can open a window, especially since it is winter outside. If I'd open the window and put this in front of it, it would cool much faster. This is where you can sort of clean up the edge a little bit so it doesn't look so janky. Okay, we're just gonna leave that to dry. So for the second floor, yeah, we're gonna be using this piece. So again, remember, since the corner is blown up, it would make sense that there's nothing here either. So we're gonna make it like that. Makes sense, right? Is it even visible on the camera? So we're gonna make it like so. But again, we don't want these straight edges here because that makes very little sense in the ruined building. So just gonna casually go at it like that. And keeping these straight edges for the gluing. Now, the way I recommend gluing is put it, since you're not going to be seeing the bottom side that much, angle it so that the glue is, how would I say it? Just keep it in angle like this and then push it up. That way all the glue that's in the bottom is going to be pushed to the bottom side of the terrain, and so you can see some of the game came out from the bottom. But if you look on this side, it's fairly clean. There's nothing here aside from the fact that I moved it. We'll just move on to glue the other one, and this time I approach it from the bottom and more or less do the same thing. And this is if you want to just create it so that it has the clean looking edge on the top. I'm gonna be coming later to reinforce it with some more hot glue. I decided to take that long piece and kind of make a base out of it, so while this one is cooling, sorry if you hear extra noise, I opened the window so that the the hot glue would harden better. So we have this piece. Okay, someone else is making something. I'm sorry, did I get into your turf in the crafting corner? Okay, so we're gonna take the hot glue gun and just add a nice thick bead on the underside in the corner of the second floor building here. And we're actually gonna do the same to the corner here. And just let it pull nicely there. It needs to be we're adding this thick glue here to essentially add it as reinforcement for the building so that the corners don't come off. So this is kind of the last steps that I do for all the corners, and just let it cool. I'm gonna close that window. Didn't know I had competitors. So doing this to do all of the corners makes it very solid structure. Especially the second floor buildings, they are not gonna be coming off, and usually you don't even see it. So what I like to do for all the buildings is have them base that makes them more secure. They're not gonna fall off, although this being hot cardboard, it's most of the time gonna be sliding all over the place because it's so light. But because it has a base, if you add anything like a sand or rocks later down the line with a PVA glue to this, it's gonna add a lot of weight into this thing, making it even more secure and less likely to move around too much on the battlefield. Okay, it looks like it's holding off on its own. So now that we have this, we're gonna take the opportunity to add a whole I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. A lot of glue here into the corner, so again it creates a nice bond for the second floor, that it's gonna be held not from just the bottom but also from the top, and it's just gonna be pulling in the corner. It's not gonna affect the gameplay, and it's gonna be much more secure. This floor is not gonna fall off suddenly. You just wanna, because it's still so liquidy, you wanna keep it preferably in the 45-degree angle so it pulls into the corner itself, but I can't really do that here now, can I? Again, make sure you have these pieces around, preferably set in some manner where it's like resembles like, yeah, that was the corner piece from there. We still got the tiles, etc. Let's see, that seems to be settling just fine. This one got moved off a little, but we can fix that by just cutting off that portion entirely. Normally I don't leave the lip like this out, but this is just for demo purposes what I'm doing here. Maybe I will use this in actual game, so well, who knows? Maybe I'll just clean up the base a little bit, getting rid of some of that extra stuff. Moving on to the reinforcing the last corner here, and it just reminded me of something that popped into my mind, that when you are doing this reinforcement thing, remember that the hot glue is really hot, and it might actually melt the existing hot glue you had put in there. So keep an eye out so it doesn't actually start moving from here. Since I applied it on this side, it might be so hot that this initial gluing comes off. So that's something for you to keep in mind when you keep doing this reinforcement, is to make sure that the piece actually doesn't come off. Right, now that the reinforcements have been settled, what we are going to do is now take all these pieces that we cut off, and so that one is clearly from there. We can use these pieces to create more interesting look to the building. So that wall, let's say, well, something blue maybe outside of the building, so it probably has flown in here. So we're going to take this piece and use it to create like this rubble, using exactly the same pieces, and just slap some glue, put it down there. I guess we're going to just take that and glue next to it to sort of break up the mold a bit. Let's see, we had oh, maybe that was the section that was cut off actually. Nope, that's something else. It doesn't matter too much, but what I like to do is use exactly the same pieces that were cut off. So let's say this one has actually been like, is still, I didn't fully got it, I made like this angle, so I'm going to gluing it into the corner over there as if this whole section just came off and now it's just sitting there. And doing simple things like this add a lot of details to your little building. And the best part is it all makes sense because it's not just random pieces. So we have these bricks. So let's add the bricks, and it looks so much better and makes a hell of a lot more sense. Let's say there were a couple of bricks here. And just like that. Maybe one is standing like that. Alternatively, what I had in mind, if you noticed the other one had like a rebars. We're not gonna use any for this one, but let's use this as an example for a rebar. That's the beautiful thing about cardboard. You have these holes in between, so you can take like a cocktail stick or whatever and just put them in there, and then glue it in. Put some glue in it. Let's do a terrible looking example for this one. So, is there any holes that I can fit this into? Because I'm just using the cardboard itself here. It's not the cocktail stick, so it's not as sturdy, but I can just shove it into the holes there. Would be far easier if it was an actual cocktail stick. So with this one we're gonna cheat a bit, so one of them is poking through and the other one I'm just gonna glue underneath there. Not sure why. So yeah, there you go. That's a terrible example of the rebar thing. Alternatively, it could be cables or anything that you know. You can do all sorts of details by just having the stuff around. But this one doesn't really fit. Like if I want to do it proper, I will use like an actual piece that was cut off. Like yeah, that could actually sort out. So do like so, and then I'll take one of the cocktails that cut this half, and then we are just gonna. So these are the pieces that we are working with. Gonna just put some glue at the end of that. Push it to the into the building. It would have made more sense if it was inwards, like where from the corner here. At least in my book, but it doesn't matter. And for this one, we're gonna do it the same. Just shove it in there somewhere, like so. And then we take the piece and okay, probably could have worked better the other way around, or just waiting for that stuff to actually glue in the first place before we start putting this in. But since we are doing this extemporary, I guess we could add it like that, so it's just hanging off from one piece like that. Let's pull that one out a bit. Ow, don't burn yourself with the glue just like I did. Couldn't stop messing around. But there you have it. That's how you would do a rebar looking thing and a piece hanging off it. You didn't even need this piece, but I like to do these sort of things. So basically we are all done here. Now only thing is left is, well, clean this mess up. But I promised that I would show you how the tiles that we came up with earlier, as soon as we get rid of, the only thing left is getting rid of all the spider web. So this tile thing doesn't actually show up that well on real life, but we're gonna sacrifice some of that Mechanicus Standard Grey here, and my brush, to bring out all that detail from there. Okay, maybe I should. Normally I use the actual acrylic paints for this rather than the Citadel ones, but screw it. So we're just gonna, since I don't want to spend my expensive paint on this, but the paint is actually picking up some of those details that we have made, even though it wasn't much. Just giving it a grey coat like that, and then I'm gonna throw in some black into the mix, just a bit. True. Well, actually, maybe white would be a better one, but hey, let's waste my paints while we're at it. I'm just testing it around with the ideas. So normally I wouldn't be using any Citadel paints, I would be using actual, like, acrylic paints. And as it turns out, I'm terrible at painting terrain from the looks of it. Yeah, I probably should have started with black instead to make sure it gets into the crevices, etc. Well, that's a burned down building. Who cares? So yeah, this one has been burned quite a bit, but it actually doesn't look that bad. And we're gonna top it off with actually dry brushing it with white, just teensy bit carefully. Wow, I have destroyed my white color fully, so this is gonna be a dry brush even without trying any dry brushing. Okay, it's not. I got it too thick on my brush, but doesn't matter. I'm just gonna destroy it. As it turns out, I can't paint. I'm sure somebody else would do a much better job than I. So let's go back with some black again to turn down that white. And the idea, you know, it doesn't actually look that bad. So even if you focus, you stupid. Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that it's a very crispy burned wall. Maybe I should paint these after all. It didn't seem that much. Just casually slapping the paint randomly seems to have created decent looking tiles out of this cardboard. And before I destroy anything else, I think that's a good way to end the video. So there you have it. That's with these basic tools you can make these cardboard buildings that you can, with these basic techniques, you can go all the way to the max that you see here. And oh well, what you saw earlier, let me just take the cam. And as you can see, I have used exactly the same techniques. This section here was actually, this whole thing was made out of template, and I did cut out this as one piece, and then the giant pieces that have been cut off this are actually in the bottom there, as I explained earlier. And 40k and miniatures don't really like having roofs on top of it, so I made the roofs removable for this one, and as you can see, this is why I have this rubble here, because the building itself doesn't look too interesting empty on its own. And like that. We have, that's how I created this particular piece. So you can go really far. As you can see, I'm being lazy and you're doing very simple things, and this is the result. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little thing about how to make the terrain. So it was very simple. You can make tons of different things just with those tools that I showed you earlier. I'm terrible making at this, so the way you would do, you can keep adding details, everything with those 3 things. You don't need to spend a lot of money for these various kind of tools or anything like that. So just start it small, and you can do a lot more than what I did here. I'm just very lazy, but just showing you how much you can do with just so little effort, with just those simple tools, with that small start. You don't need to invest a lot of money. Anyway, enough with rambling. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, guys. See ya.